So guys, that's how quick and easy you can build you a bowstring jig for building Flemish twist strings. Well, good morning guys, welcome back to Papaw's place. As always, if this is your first time here, thanks for dropping in. Feel free to drop in anytime you feel, my friend. Guys, today I'm going to show y'all how you can build you, I would say cheap, but most people, if you got any kind of shop, you're going to have the materials like I did. But we're going to build a string building jig to build Flemish twist strings for your recurves and your long bows and such. Now this ain't to build the endless loop strings. This is to build a Flemish twist strings. But if you look, these things is pretty pricey. But once I looked at one, I'm like, no, I ain't buying one of them. I can build one of them. And then I thought that'd make a good video too. So what I'm starting with here, and I got my little plans drew out here, and I'll attach somewhere in this video, maybe at the end, a little drawing so you'll have the measurements and stuff if you want to build this. Now I had just built a porch for a fella, and I had a piece of this. It's what is called 5/8 inch deck board, which will work just right for this. It's 6 inches wide, and I've already cut it 28 inches long. Now you can use a 2x6, would work great for this too. Probably could get by with a 2x4, but I think the 5.5 inch board would give you more when it's sitting there and you're working. So I'm gonna get y'all over here close, and we're gonna measure all this out. But we're gonna be using one board, 28 inches long. I think it's 20 or 22. I call these 4-penny nails. I don't know, I think the original proper name's 4D nails, but they ain't even got to be that size. That's just what I have on hand. And then as my dowel pin, you could use wood or whatever, but I got some of these little metal rods. Actually, them are clippings off of a cow panel. And I save a bunch of them because you'll be surprised what you can use little stuff like this for, especially when you're welding and tinkering, and it's going to work perfect for this. You're going to need a drill bit and a drill for whatever size peg you want, or whatever you're using. If you're using a little dowel pin, or you could, at first I got out a 12-penny nail, and then I seen these little pins I had over there, and I said, no, I like that. That's a little bigger round. That'll make it sturdier when we stick them in our holes. And y'all see what that's all about here in a little bit. Odds are, if you're looking up a video how to build a jig, then you know how this works. You just trying to do like me and say, well, why can't I build this instead of spending $100 on one? And I think that's it. Now I'm going to need my little hammer. Of course, I got my square and a tape, pencil, measuring tape, and I'm going to use a chalk line. So right now I'm going to get y'all up here where y'all ain't going to be seeing me, but y'all going to be seeing what I'm doing, so y'all can have a close-up view here. Like I said, I got my little scratch drawing. Drawed all this out on paper, and I'll put a drawing, pop it up on the screen here, somewhere in here. I may do it right here when I'm editing the video. Alright, so I got y'all set up here. Like I said, the board is 28 inches long. This one measures right at 5.5, which is like a normal 2x6. They call them 2x6, but they measure 5.5. But the first thing we're going to do is get the center of our board. That's actually 5 and just slightly over 5, so I'm going to mark it 2 3/4, and then put my string line right on this side of my mark, and that's going to put it just right. because it ain't got to be perfect center of your board, but it's got to be a perfect line when you drill all these holes. So we got our center line down the middle. String line didn't pop all the way to the end right there, so I'm going to put that line out because we're going to need that to measure off of. Next up, I'm going to mark. I'm going to come back off the end 2 inches. And I'm going to put me a line across there. Square across it. Because off of that center right there, we're going to measure over 1 1/4 inches. Now I'm cutting 1 inch so I can read my tape. So we're going to measure over 1 1/4 inches, both directions. So what we got is 2 inches from the end, 1 1/4 inches from the center. Alright, we're going to move to the other end. And I'm going to do the same thing, except I ain't going to need that one in the middle there, so I'm going to put just a little dot there. We're measuring from this end 2 inches. So what you should come up with between them 2 lines is 24 inches. And that's what I got. Then from that center line, we're going to move over 1 1/4 inches. Put us a little dot. We're going to come this way off of it, 1 1/4 inches. Now we need a straight line down this board. That 1 1/4 inches. So I'm going to use my string line again and go from this dot to this dot. And I'm going to do the same thing right there. Again, this is a jig to build bowstrings with when I get done, and you can build different lengths of strings with it. That's why I got to have all these holes put in there. Now to start out with, on this end, well, we're going to put a 4-penny nail right here. And you want to try to get them as straight up and down as you can. And one right there. Now I'm going to use the back of my square here so I can try to get all of my nails drove the same height. That don't really matter. Whatever height you use or nail, I just don't want them coming through the bottom of the board, but I want mine all kind of the same height so it looks good when I'm doing it. Now, that's all we're going to do on this end for right now. We're going to move to this end. On this end, on these 2 outer lines, we're going to put the first nail right here. That's 2 inches off the end, 1 1/4 inches from the center. We're going to put a nail and a nail. But then we're going to measure between each of them nails 3/8 of an inch. Now this would be better if I had something 3/8 of an inch wide, because I can't keep adding 3/8 of an inch in my, I can count them out. So after I count these out, I'm going to be putting 10 dots 3/8 of an inch apart. Right down that line. So that's 10 dots 3/8 of an inch apart. Now I'm gonna move over here and I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. So now we got 10 dots 3/8 of an inch apart. Now we're gonna take these 4D nails and try to get them dead on that dot and straight up and down on every one of them. Actually, the nail heads on these nails is almost too big. Probably been better off if I'd have had some smaller nails, or nails with smaller heads. And guys, I may have to cut the tops off these heads with a grinder. But this is the best, closest nail I had. You don't want too little of a nail, because when you building your string, you want it stout enough to hold your string. That's gonna work, because you're gonna just be running one strand through each of these every time you make a loop around the board. So these are gonna work just right. Do the same thing on the other side. Get my first nail there about the same height. Like I said, I'm just kind of a little anal about that stuff. Plus I can use the straight edge here and stand them all up straight. So when you're building your string, I'm going to demonstrate it. I ain't got my material in to actually build my first string in yet, but I do have some string that I'm going to show y'all how this works in case you ain't never seen it. Alright, so the next thing now, we're going to come back from this end, starting from that center, but we ain't going to be driving nails. We're going to be drilling a hole the diameter of whatever you're going to be using as your pin. Now I'm going to cut this pin off. I'm going to smooth the end up with the grinder and cut it off probably about 2.5 inches. No, let's see. Probably just make it 3 inches. That way it sticks down in the board somewhere about 5/8. But whatever you're going to use for the pin, you want to make the drill bit the right size, because you don't want this flopping when you put it in the hole. We're going to mark this out every 1 inch and drill a hole. And this is where this pin will be used when you building, say you building a 60-inch string. You'll go around this, and y'all see what I'm talking about when I show you an example after a while. But if you want to build a string for just say a 58-inch bow, you would move it back to wherever hole it needs to be. So right now I'm going to mark these out on 1 inch. I like these measurements because they right there. You ain't got to count all them little lines. And I'm going to tell y'all something about marking stuff out like this. I done forgot how many I said we needed. I didn't write it down there, but I went back and done some double checking. 16 of them. So since I'm cutting 2 inches on the end there, I need to go all the way to 18 on the tape. But what I was saying, when you marking something out, a while ago when y'all seen me marking out these 3/8 of an inch, the reason I counted them off in 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, put a dot, didn't move my tape. If you start trying to use a 3/8, you make a dot, and you say, well, I'm going to just keep moving my tape like that. You'll end up getting off more than you will if you leave your tape still and count them off, especially when you, because this makes a big difference when you're building your bowstring, what each one of these nails represent and the purpose of them. So now I'm going to just drill my holes, and I don't want them drilled all the way through the board. Before I drill them all, I'm going to make sure my pin fits in there. That's a little too snug, so I'm finna get me another drill bit just a shade bit bigger, because I'm going to use this metal pin. Let me swap drill bits. But y'all get the point there. I'm going to drill a hole out on all 16 of them holes. Actually, to make it more accurate, I'm going to drill a pilot hole with a little bit first. Alright, we got all of our holes drilled. Them fit in there good and snug. Now guys, I did go on and drill all the way through my board, because like I said, it ain't gonna matter. Because I wanted this to go, when I'm setting it down and using it, I want it to go in there deep enough that this pin ain't got no wobble. So I went on and drilled through, and now I'm going to take some sandpaper and just kind of get all that rough mess off of there from the drill bit drilling. Now we should have 16 holes right down the center. I ended up with 17 holes. That's alright. May want to get a longer longbow one day. You can go to whatever length you want if you want to put a sander on it and sand your board and paint it, but all I want is where I ain't getting no splinter. I ain't gonna paint this board. It's gonna just stay out here in the shed. Building bowstrings ain't something I'm gonna be doing that often. But I don't know, because right now I'm up to 4 recurves / longbows, 3 compounds, and 3 crossbows. I just went out there and took the grinder, cut my pen, rounded the ends up so it ain't got no sharpness. Now let me clean my mess up and we'll talk about it. So guys, that's how quick and easy you can build you a bowstring jig for building Flemish Twist strings. Now like I said, endless loop strings takes a little different style of jig than this. Now I've never done this myself, but I'm going to be making a video when I get my string in. But I do have some string here I'm going to demonstrate to some of you that don't know. Also, the plans I got here, I mean, I may end up having to drill some more holes here, depends on how long I need my string to be. I think I ain't going to go that high. I think mine's going to be back in here. But it's a trial and error, especially when you're making your board. Now, I think even if you buy one, they're going to give you a measurement and say, with this hole here is approximately, would make a 60-inch string. But until you make it one and test it. So what I'm trying to get here, I can't tell you which one of these holes is going to be what length string yet. But as soon as I make them and I figure it out, I literally just write on my board what length string that hole stands for. And if it don't come out, if you need an oddball string, I may have to come back and drill holes in between here and make 1/2-inch spacings. I've seen some boards guys has got 1/2-inch spacings instead of 1-inch spacings. Some of them may be 3/4, I don't know. But what I'm saying is I can always come back in here, even if I drill a smaller hole and use a smaller diameter pin between them, if I need to, or if you need to. But it's just that quick. And like I said, if you bought that, y'all can just Google it and see who sells them and see how much one costs. But that's how easy it is to build one. Now I'm going to get y'all up here straight. I ain't got no string, bowstring, but I do have some string here that's actually, when I done taxidermy work, it's a wax heavy duty sewing string. And I actually use this to tie the knots on my bows and stuff with now. I don't know exactly what kind of string it is. Actually, guys, look at this. I ordered this off the taxidermy website years ago to sew with. You know what's on the bottom of it? B50 bowstring. Browning and Company. CT 06469. So I already own B50 bowstring, which now I think for recurve bows is most people use B55 or D97 with your new bows. But like an old bow, like my old bear bow, it needs a string like this, B50 or Dicron. You can't put a faster flight string on them because the tips ain't built up. But I have never paid that any attention all these years. That's actually B50 bowstring. So I'm going to get y'all over here and just give you an example of how this works in case you're one of my viewers and this is striking your interest here and you just want to see how it's going to work. Now probably what I'm going to do is just like I do on my lawnmowers. I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to make me a diagram here, so if I don't make a string for 2 years and I get this board back out going to make me a string, I can look at my diagram and remember how to run this. But just say, and I'm going to just use an example here, most strings that I would be making is probably 14 to 16 strands for these recurves. But you're going to start on one side, and I'm going to work off-handed here since y'all on that side. Just tie it to your first nail. And you're going to run that string across. Come down. You're going to go around this nail. Come back up around your peg. And your peg determines the length of your bowstring you're building. That's why it's removable. Come back down. And when you get back up here, just say you're building a 14 strand bowstring, you step back to the second nail. You just do that same thing again. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to put 3 strands. You step back to your third nail and you just keep doing that. So you see right now I got a 3 strand once I come around the board and back to this side. Now you can't stop on this side because we got to cut them right down the middle when I get ready to, if I was building a string. And that actually the reason them nails is stepped out like that, spaced out. When you go to do your Flemish twist, it's tapered down, twisting when you're twisting your string together at each end. Alright, so I'm going to, when I come back to that nail right there, you would look at that and say I got 4 strands. No, I got 3 completed strands. That's just been to start the 4th one. But to have the 3rd one completed, it's got to come back to this side of the board. It can't stop over here. Because you need that tail when you cut the next string. Or if I was building, just say that was a 4 strand, whatever I was building something a 4 strand for, which you're not. I would still need to come across here so I could cut that so that tail would taper down if I'm going to do a Flemish twist. So that's how it's used. But now I can cut them strings. After I get done making this video, I can cut that and figure out what length string that hole right there would make, and then I'm going to take a permanent marker and write that size down, and then I know which size to go from there. Like I said, my board end up with notes all over it because I got 4 trad bows right now. So 2 of them two of them uses one length string, one uses a different. Out of 4 bows, I think it's 3 different length strings I would be making. One of them would need to be not out of the fast flight, because I'm going to be doing mine out of D97, I think, and I may try to B55. But that's a whole different story, why it's different strings and such. But anyhow, guys, that's how, if you in archery and you've been thinking about wanting to build your strings, and you think it's going to cost you too much to get into it, you can build your jig for free. Then all you got to buy is your string that you're going to be using. If you don't want to buy but one spool, don't buy 2 colors. Most people buy 2 colors. You would do, if I'm building a 14 strand bowstring, I would do 7, cut these, lay them out, and do 7 strand string of another color, and then you would go to putting them together from there on the Flemish Twist part. But y'all see all that on the video, or there's other videos on the YouTube that you can watch now. But I just wanted, while I was making this board, to show y'all how easy it is and how cheap. Now the next thing you're going to need is a serving tool. Now, I've had a serving tool. This one here is probably, I wouldn't even know when to guess when I bought this. As soon as I started shooting compounds at about 14 years old, I figured by 16 years old, I was serving my own line strings, because your strings, you can get more life out of it. You always breaking your serving and stuff and wearing it out where you're shooting. So I already had the serving tool. All I got to do is just buy some new serving thread. Plus they got more up-to-date stuff than this old spool right here, even though it's still good. And I used it the other day to reserve the string, so it's still good. They just got better stuff on the market now. And that's pretty much all you got to have to make you a bowstring. And you say, well, why you want to make a bowstring? Well, I'm one that I like doing stuff myself. And just like this bow I got, but I ain't even done a review on that bow yet. But just say my Black Hunter bow. That bow's a $98 bow. But the strings they come on them is the cheapest thing that they can put on them. Or like my Blue Duck bow there. I had that bow, I bought that string, and the guy does awesome work, but that's a $40 string. Well, I got a bow over here I'm going to do a review on. I didn't pay but $75 for it, but if I bought another string, the string's over half price of what I paid for the bow. So I'm like, I'm going to just start making my own strings, plus it gives me something else to do. I just love doing this kind of stuff. And over time, yeah, it can save you money, because even if I went with one color, one spool of string, especially the B55 string, I don't think it's only like $15 a spool. I don't know how many strings you can make out of it. Probably 20 or 30 strings out of that one spool. But anyway, guys, if you ain't never subscribed to my channel, please hit that subscribe button, that notification bell, because you never know what you might be seeing here at Papaw's Place. I'm a little bit about everything. And please leave comments. Let me know what you think about this, or you built one and it's a different style, and tell me about it. I love reading the comments and I love learning from other people. But as always, I hope y'all have a great day and a blessed week. God bless. See y'all next time. Guys, I made my first Flemish Twist string. 14 strand B50 strand out of the old string I had. But I messed up when I done my little test to try to figure out what pegs to get started on. And I went the opposite direction with my peg, which shortened my string. So now I got a 53-inch string that ain't good for nothing. But hey, that was the first Flemish Twist string I ever made. So now I'm going to try to do it again to see if I can figure out which numbers so I can number my holes. And I did have to end up drilling more holes coming toward the nails on this end, because I was right about right here. No, I think I was down here. Yeah, I was down there 'cause I just sanded off where I wrote on there. That's actually 53. So I'm going to do another one and tested it what I think ought to be around the 58 inches. But anyway, you had to drill a few more holes than I told y'all in making the video. So as I said, this is a trial and error. You got to figure it out once you make it. Plus, if you've never made a string before, you're going to need to practice a little bit. And I will tell you, I only got one color strand right now. I can see why they like using two colors, because it makes it a lot more simpler when it comes to doing the Flemish twist on the end, if you had two colors. Like I said, I ain't got my new string in yet, so I'm just practicing. Hopefully by the time a new strand comes in, I have these holes numbered and know exactly what length strings that make.